Well, all right. I guess it's time to kick off episode 7 of Ramble. And I got a really special guest today. He's a friend of mine, and he's a prolific horror director. So this podcast will surely become a bloodbath. My friend, Neil Fitzpatrick O'Flaherty, Stevens Callahan.
I should talk with an Irish accent. No, that's a horrible Irish accent. I can't do a good Irish accent. I am Irish, but I can't do the accent.
Yeah, you're from Boston. There's a lot of Irish there. I actually named my dog Murphy.
Very Irish.
Yeah, every time I walk in the door and he's wagging his non-existent tail, I'm like, well, you're a good little lad, aren't you, Murphy? Like I start speaking in some like Irish accent.
You have to, you gotta like have a few beers before you do the accent comes better after a few drinks, I've noticed.
Yeah, for sure. Oh man, so how have you been, man? I haven't talked to you for a little while. I know you went on vacation, right? Did you go to Boston?
I did, yes. I just came back I'm from the North Shore of Boston, which is like Peabody area. And a buddy of mine married a girl. He's from Atlanta.
Okay.
And he married a gal from the North Shore of Boston. So it was kind of like, all right. And they had their wedding there. And so I got to go home and also celebrate their wedding.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So the football season is about to kick off, and I know for the last 20 years, the Patriots, your team, I mean, it must have been a party every Sunday at the O'Flaherty Callahan house, right? I mean, how was it last year without Brady? I mean, what were you guys' expectations? I mean, how did it feel, to come back to earth for that one season?
I tried to pretend like last year just didn't exist. I was like, Brady left, and then there's COVID, and it's like, is there even going to be a season? And then, it's this weird hybrid season. So I was kind of like, let's just pretend like this is a lost season.
Yeah.
And we'll just, I love my team, but I was like, let's just lose as many games as we can and get a good draft pick and pretend like that season didn't exist. And then we'll come back the next season.
Yeah.
With the Brady heir apparent.
Yeah. And you guys drafted a quarterback, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, we ended up winning, Cam Newton actually did really well in the beginning, and then he got COVID, and then he was not the same player. I don't know if it was because of COVID or injuries or whatever. So we did well, but we lost a lot of games, and then we ended up with Mac Jones.
Yeah, well, it seemed you guys played well against the Chargers. It was, I think, 45-0 or something. Nothing went well that game. I was like, what the hell is this? And thankfully, that was the one. You could see it in ownership's eyes. They pan the camera up there to the owner's box. There's no fans. It was just literally just the owners. It was the COVID time, and I mean,
there usually aren't fans anyway, right? I mean,
well, actually, there are, but the problem is normally they sell their tickets to the opposing fans, so it'd be opposing fans in the stands, which is going to be really interesting because this is the first year. They're going to let fans into this brand new stadium that they just built here in Inglewood. And I got season tickets. And so we're all trying to figure out, like, is it going to be the same thing? Because there's your cat.
Yeah, sorry, my cat she's very needy. She hears me speaking and she's like, why aren't you talking to me? So you might hear an intermittent like meow, meow. That's just.
Oh, no, that's fun. You know what? I'm sure people listening love animals. So right before they moved to Los Angeles, there was this tweet I saw, and it had in 2014, it was Bill Belichick basically saying, I'm really thankful for all the fans that came out and supported us. It was overwhelming. Like there was like a whole row or a section of fans right behind the bench or something, and they were all cheering him on. And,
right.
So this was something that was happening down in San Diego too. Mm-hmm. So we're hoping that like, okay, well, new season, new quarterback who a lot of people are really hyped up to see. I don't want to describe it as Herbert mania, but there's definitely like a buzz. Yeah, like there's definitely a buzz with this guy because he won the Rookie of the Year.
Okay.
It seems like he can do things that our previous quarterback, who we really loved, Phillip Rivers, but he was a statue. I mean, if you remember, Patriots had Drew Bledsoe. He was a statue. Right. Well, Phillip Rivers was basically, a skinnier version of Drew Bledsoe. So
yeah. Okay. All right. And a slightly more douchier version of Bledsoe too.
Well, I mean, it depends on how you see it, because it's like a lot of fans will argue that he was very animated and, like when he talked smack, he didn't use a bunch of like F-bombs and things like that. It was more like a playful kind of thing that you did on the playground back when you were like 6 years old.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, he is a very strict kind of religious guy, so I'm assuming he's not throwing F-bombs left and right. Right.
He had like 9 kids and it was, I saw some documentary or some sort of thing with the Catholic Church. He was like, how like Tom Cruise, like when he was talking, like they filmed that interview with him, like speaking to somebody in the Church of Scientology. It was like
to LRH.
Yeah. It was like he was talking to somebody in the Catholic Church, and they were like plotting the pregnancies or something. Like there was like a golden time to like fertile period, and that like I don't know that was like ripe for Jesus. I don't know. It was some sort of.
I didn't hear about this.
Yeah, it was some sort of like it was some sort of thing like that. But anyway, they ended up with 9, so it worked. Yeah. So anyway,
you take your chances. When you got that golden period, you gotta make them count, man. Until that portal closes, and
the golden period.
It could be the Messiah. I mean, who knows? Who knows?
So last year you didn't have Brady. And he's over at Tampa, I should say, Tampa Bay, and ended up winning the Super Bowl. I mean, were you surprised, or you're just kind of like, we should have kept him? What the hell?
I was a bit surprised because he kind of started a little slow.
Right.
I can't say I'm that surprised. I mean, he's Tom effing Brady. Winning Super Bowls is his thing. I figured he'd go there and do well, but then he is old, and Father Time's going to catch up with him a little bit. And there was a little bit of that, girlfriend breaks it off, and you're kind of like, all right, let's see if they still got it.
Right.
And at first there were a little bit of struggles, and you're like, yep, I knew it. And then he goes into TV mode, and it's like, you know what? He's the same. Yeah. And it's like, I knew it.
I knew it.
He's the same guy. You can't doubt him. I was happy for him. I mean, he's Tom Brady. Should we have kept him? Yeah, obviously we would have been better with him. But we also had a lot of holes, and I don't know that team would have won it with Tom Brady. So there's a lot of,
Maybe if they played as well as they did against the Chargers against everyone else, then maybe, that was.
Yes. Every team, yeah.
Because it seemed like everything worked. Everything, like, oh yeah, punt return, we can do that. Oh, we could block a kick too. If you want us to block a kick, we'll go ahead and do that. We'll run the ball, we'll throw the ball. Our backup quarterback, if you want him to throw a touchdown, we'll have him do that. It was absolutely ridiculous. But anyway, back to that I'm just glad that was the one to get the previous regime out. And they were great guys, but so goddamn predictable. And it got to the point where it was frustrating as a fan. So the new coach had the number 1 defense last year with the Rams. So hopefully turns around the defense, and Herbert continues to play well. So I also want to get to another part of football that is happening right now. It's kind of in the headlines, is this whole vaccination thing. And have you been vaccinated?
I have, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I have too. I got vaccinated in March. There's a lot of people who aren't vaccinated, which is surprising to me a little. I didn't realize anti-vaxxing was such a big deal in the world. I thought, maybe there was just like some sort of a phase there in the 2000s with, like the health and wellness group, the organic eating people, which I actually, in 2015, when we were at Stuart Rogers, I was trying to lose weight, get healthy. I'd quit smoking in 2013. So I started going down this little path where I was like, okay, well, let's eat, mostly organic when you can and whatever. Sure. And so I kind of fell down this little rabbit hole, and I realized what's going on is like, if you go too far down the rabbit hole, you end up hitting these like militant vegans and like, everything is toxic. Like, it's like, whoa, like
Right.
let's back off. Like, dioxins are everywhere. And so I was like, okay, got to close all these tabs, these windows, the YouTube and all this stuff. Like, I'm going to do my own thing. Right. So
do your own research, Mervin.
Yeah. I realized, that a lot of that stuff came from there. And now I'm seeing it's a lot of, it's a lot of Trumpers, like the right wing people are like, we're not doing it. They don't trust it or whatever, even though the mRNA technology, they've been working on it for years. It's not brand new. It just came to the market new. And there's, what do you call it? Vaccines that are based on the older technology available. So they just don't want to do it. I mean, what's your take on this? Because the NFL has come down to not require vaccinations, but they basically made it so if a team does get COVID during the season and it's mainly from unvaccinated players, they could literally forfeit the games.
Yeah, that's a big rule. I mean, I could see this happening. I mean, we've already seen it in other sports where there's still in baseball, there's COVID outbreaks, and that could definitely happen. And then, the players who are vaxxed are going to be pretty pissed at the ones who weren't, who cost them a win. And, probably teams are going to be turning on each other a little bit. So yeah, that's going to be I think that's going to be a big deal. If there are a significant amount of players who aren't vaccinated, which it sounds like there are based on
sadly. Yeah. And my Chargers, there was a report out, there was 3 teams that at one point were under the 50% vaccination rate of the entire team. It was under 50% of the team. And I was like, well, who the fuck is it? Well, it's the Chargers, the Cardinals, and Washington. Now it's definitely improved. I think it's closer to like 65% now as we inch towards the season. And then everyone, is starting to realize that the NFL is basically cracking down on this kind of thing. So it is a competitive advantage. And just that you're simply vaccinated against a freaking virus. And so I hope that everything is resolved on the field and not off the field where people are getting freaking sick on COVID.
Yeah, I think maybe this is the optimist in me as well. And I'm sure I could be wrong, but I think, there are certain people who aren't going to get vaccinated regardless. Like they just aren't going to. I've talked to people like that and they're not going to do it. They just don't believe in it. But I think there's still a significant amount of people who are saying, let's wait a little bit. And I think we'll see what happens with this Delta variant, but if this thing seems to be spreading really fast, then it comes down to, well, do I want to, catch this new variant and get sick from that? Or do I want to take the vaccine and I guess take my chances? I mean, some people got a little bit, I got slightly dizzy the first day, but it was over and I would rather deal with that than, catch COVID. And I've had family members catch it and they're like, this is not fun. Like I lost my sense of smell. It messed with my brain. I have this like fog now. I couldn't breathe every night. I was going to sleep. I was like, I don't want something that's going to mess with my brain, Right.
Yeah. No, you're going to need that brain.
I need that. And, I'll take my chances with this vaccine that's been tested on millions of people over this thing that might literally screw up my brain. So I think there are people who are just saying, let's wait and see. And I think hopefully that a lot of those people will get vaccinated, especially if this thing starts spreading a lot more, but remains to be seen, man. We'll see.
Yeah. Do you think there's anything in there as far as horror with this like vaccine kind of like health and wellness and like these anti-vaxxers? Do you think there's anything that could inspire a horror film there?
Oh, yeah. I've the past year and a half, whatever, I've written quite a few stories of, I don't know if necessarily anti-vax, but I've written some stories. I wrote this one story called The Algorithm, which is how like someone gets stuck in this like YouTube algorithm hole where they start out as like a normal person who's like, you know, a little bit skeptical about things. Sure. And then you click one, and probably you've had this experience, Mervin, where you're on YouTube and there's like this one strange video that like clickbait video. It shows up on YouTube.
Sure.
You click it, you watch it, and you're like, well, that seems ridiculous. But YouTube says, oh, well, this person clicked this video, so they were interested in it. So I'm going to show them more of that content.
Yeah, the algorithm. Yep.
So you're getting more and more of them. And even if that first click, you didn't believe it, if you stay in that world and start clicking on others, it's like it evolves from like disbelief to like, haha, this is funny, this is ridiculous, to like, oh, actually, they're just asking questions, they're raising concerns. And then you just go deeper in, and then
they're doing their own research.
They're doing their own research, and you become a true believer. You come out the end of it, and you're a true believer. I've literally seen it happen in real life.
Well, this is what's going on with QAnon. I always try to say Quanon, but it's QAnon. And there was a documentary on HBO that really examined that. It was pretty scary.
Yeah, Into the Storm. Yeah, I watched that.
Yeah, Into the Storm. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I got vaccinated in March. I wasn't an anti-vax. I mean, I was an anti-vaxxer when I was like 5 years old, only because I was like, I really, I was scared of needles, not the medicine.
Yeah.
Needles were like really freak. I thought it was some sort of form of like child torture. You know what I mean? When I was a kid, like I still kind of get a little apprehensive. This is a kind of embarrassing story, but one day I decided to go for a hike in like the Will Rogers kind of Palisades area. And I was like, oh, it's a local hike. And I looked on the app or whatever, and it had like these wide like trails, right? There's no vegetation, no trees, it's just kind of like, oh, a little view of the ocean over there. And, you just get your hike on, no big deal. So I was like, it's going to be kind of hot. Let's wear shorts. First time I ever went on a hike with fucking wearing shorts. I'll never do it again. And I have this app where like it's called All Trails, and basically nice plug, by the way, they owe me some money, but anyway, so you could plot your little route or whatever, and so I go down, and then I don't know, like 3 or 4 miles, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to turn around, so I'm going to take this little section and cut across, and then I'm going to loop back, and then I'm going to head home, and that's it for the day, and then I'm going to drink some beer in celebration. Well, this section where I cut across was heavily like overgrown. I mean, I was like, well, it doesn't look like poison oak. Like I just kind of like did my best to kind of avoid it, whatever. And then, some of it was by this little river or whatever. And I ended up getting freaking poison oak for the first time in my life. So I was like, okay. So I try all those creams and stuff, and I try like, washing it and stuff. It's pretty itchy. And I'm like, this is pretty gross. So I go to urgent care, and the person tells me that I have a staph, and it looked really gross. It was oozing, and it was like yellow and shit. I'm like, okay, well, let's get this thing treated. And so they're like, well, I'm going to have to shoot you with a steroid shot or something like that right now. And then I'm going to give you a bunch of stuff that you can take home or get prescriptions for and take home. I'm like, okay, yeah, please. I need to clear this up ASAP. And so I get this shot in my ass, and it like I go into shock. Like it freaks me out. And I remember when I was a kid, when I was like terrified of all this stuff. And then the doctor's like, no, don't worry about it. Just breathe it out. He's like, it's no big deal. But I thought I was gonna like fucking die on that table. It was terrible. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, to this day, I still have, this kind of like fear and of these things. But,
well, that's totally understandable. I mean, if you told me that story, then you're like, I'm anti-vax, I'd be like, okay, I could I could see that.
Yeah. But you know what? The one that went in my arm, okay, I got the Pfizer, right? And I had fatigue a little bit. It wasn't a big deal. Second time around, I didn't feel a damn thing. It felt totally fine. But it was, it's a little prick. It's not a big deal. And I was like, I got to get this done, because I figured... Here's what I was kind of like clairvoyant in a way, because now they're talking about this notion of vaccine passports, meaning like you have to show your vaccine in order to get into like, stadiums like football or, bars, restaurants or whatever, but mostly just events, like ticketed events where large crowds of people go in.
Right.
that's what I was like, well, I want to go see football. Like I want to go. So I want to get this over with and done. You know what I mean? And so that's something right now that it seems like a lot of people don't have the stomach for. Are you for or against these kind of like proofs of documentation?
All right. We're getting the hard-hitting questions here. So I would say selfishly, because I'm vaccinated, I would selfishly, I'd be like, yeah, let's show our proof of vaccination and get on with our lives. I mean, I guess I can, I don't know. I'm trying to be diplomatic here and being like, okay, like, all right. I mean, then you're forcing the thing on other people. And I'm hoping it doesn't have to come to that. I mean, I'm hoping that enough of the wait and see crowd are going to get vaccinated where it's not going to come down to that. That's my hope. But selfishly, because I am vaccinated, I'd be like, yeah, give me the passport. But maybe there are people who have those stories like you had, and they're just afraid of something. I remember when I was a kid, I got the allergy test or whatever, and I got pricked by a bunch of things, and it was awful. You're all itchy and this and that, and maybe I carried that trauma forward. But I mean, if you look at the science and you look at technology and how far we've come with these things, there really hasn't been cases of these awful side effects beyond, maybe a slight dizziness or sickness for the first couple of days. I mean, we're not making people sterile or anything. I mean, there have been in history, years ago where there were bad side effects, like decades ago.
Sure.
But we've come, science has come a long way, and we've gotten a lot better at it. And I hope people will look at the science and see that we've tested it on so many people, and they'll be like, okay, well, this thing is safe. So that's my hope, is it doesn't come to that.
Yeah. This past year obviously was pretty traumatic for a lot of people, and a lot of people suffered from nightmares and strange sleeping schedules and things like that. Have you had any dreams or nightmares in the past year, or on top of that, any scary incidents that happened to you while you were awake in the past year that really, really freaked you out, that maybe gave you some sort of inspiration for a possible horror film?
Good question. I as far as dreams, and this may sound strange as a horror director, I don't have a lot of like horror dreams. I'm always dreaming of like the same thing, and it's always like something around like middle school or high school. And I had a dream just a couple days ago where I was my age, like a middle-aged man who, for some reason, I was going back to high school, and it was my first day of like almost like Rodney Dangerfield, like like back to school thing. And I'm an older guy, and it's the first day of school, and I'm really nervous, and I got all my stuff, and I've got, this is present day. I got modern technology. I got my iPad, my laptop, this and that. And the school bus pulls around, and the kids are coming in and out. And like, I'm looking at these kids, and these kids are all so young, and they're all, they all got that kind of like, when you're young, you're a teenager and you're smug and you think you got it all figured out. And you're just like, you're just floating through life. Like, I know it. And then suddenly
Sure.
I couldn't find any of my things, like my iPad and my laptop. And I was like searching for them, and they were missing. And then everyone was staring at me, wondering if I was going to get on the bus to go back to high school. And then I never got on the bus, and the bus went by, and I don't know, maybe there's some symbolism there. You can't go back.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just always dreaming about school. It's just, it was a strange time for me.
Well, it's interesting that you keep going back to that. It's like it keeps calling you back.
Yeah. I wonder, I think maybe we all feel this way, and like we wish we could go back to certain points of our lives when we are the person we are now, and maybe it would be different.
Right. Oh, like go back and like change things, right?
Yeah, you know, I mean, you change things, or like, you know, there's a dream of like getting a shot at doing it, or whatever.
Right, sure.
I feel like I'm always dreaming about that. But also, you know, if it wasn't for these strange, awkward moments, you know, those kind of like make you who you are today. So you do need those at the same time. You need to go through that crap to become the person you are. So in a way, you don't actually, you know, you usually don't want, unless it's like really bad trauma and it's screwing your life up. I mean, that's another thing. I channel everything into horror, so it kind of worked out for me. But yeah, that's as far as for dreams.
I mean, I had one where is a nightmare for sure. Okay, so I don't smoke weed. I don't think I've smoked weed since I was like 25 or something like that. So it's been a little while, and like I love that, you know, there's all these shops that sell weed. It's awesome. Like if I was a weed smoker and I loved edibles and stuff, I'd go there every week. I'd be there. So for some weird reason, I'm inside one of these shops, and I'm robbing it. I'm robbing this fucking thing. Like I don't smoke weed, so I don't know why I'm there.
They do carry a lot of money.
Yeah, they carry cash. They carry cash. So I guess I know this. I guess I'm here. I'm like, okay, give me all your money. They're taking the cash out of the safe, right? They're like, you know, there's all this weed. I don't take any of the weed, so maybe it's like, okay, I'm just a criminal. I'm not a weed smoker. Okay, so that kind of makes sense. So I'm in this thing. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go through these motions. You know, I guess I should try to wake myself up. And I'm like, what's going to happen here? This is interesting. So I'm like, okay, the next thing I know is I get the cash, and then I come outside and it looks like somebody is waiting for me in an SUV. So that's the getaway car. So I'm like, oh, okay. So
hopefully, yeah,
they see me and they hit the gas to approach, but this thing escalates. The SUV like smashes another car and then like drives over it. So like it gruesomely kills the people inside of it.
Oh God.
And I'm like, okay, now I gotta wake up. Like this is ridiculous.
It's like Grand Theft Auto, where you went from armed robbery to, you know, serial murder.
Right. Like, no, like once you hit murder, I gotta go. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. So anyway, yeah. And as far as scary incidents, I had one while I was awake, and it involved a car. So I have this Toyota Prius, and it came standard with something called the Toyota Safety Sense. And what it is it's got this little camera thing. So like it'll sense something stopped ahead of you if you're traveling at a certain rate or whatever speed or whatever, or if you accelerate towards it or whatever, it just detects it and it flashes brake on the screen, and you know, it alerts you. So I didn't know this, but it also will hit the brakes for you. I never knew this. So I drove. Well, okay, I was on I was at a stop sign, and it was kind of a busy street, and so I was kind of timing, like endless supply of cars. So picture that, you know, it's LA.
Yeah.
And so you're waiting for this convoy of fucking cars to go through, and then I'm trying to time it so I can get in and, you know, resume my life. And so the car senses, like I accelerate because I'm waiting for this car to pass me, and I'm like, okay, so here I go, hit the accelerator, and this thing fucking brakes, thinking that I'm gonna hit it. Oh. And so it breaks. So I'm stopped now in the middle of this fucking, and everyone's going like 40 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour. And they're like all slamming the brakes. And I'm like, dude,
oh shit.
I'm like, dude, it's the car. Like everyone's like, fuck you, man. Like, I'm like, bro, it's the Prius. Like, and they're like, we hate Prius. And like, you know, and I'm like, fuck. It's like another reason for people to hate Priuses. It's like, now it's got the safety shit baked into it.
Yeah, where it's not even your fault, and you're getting the blame for this automaton. Yeah, that is a little nerve wracking. That's a little, like the whole. And I'm kind of pro self-driving cars because I don't really like driving. I like the idea of being driven around and I can do something else.
Sure.
Unless I'm like on the open road, I'm cruising along highway one, there's still something to be said for that. But
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, but
there's joy in that.
So probably self-driving is it's going to prevent so many accidents, and it's going to increase productivity or whatever. But the accidents are probably going to be that, because accidents will happen, but they're going to be way worse theoretically than normal accidents, because it's the machines causing it and not the humans. There's something when like a person causes something, it's like, oh, okay, well, the person screwed up or whatever. But when the machines cause it, it's a little scarier.
Yeah.
The element of control is gone. You're just a person in an airplane hoping the pilot's not drunk or whatever. You don't have that control, and that's a little scary.
Yeah, and there's definitely a lot of horror there, right? There's something to be said there, right? For as far as like to mine that avenue of robotics that's coming up here.
Yeah, for sure. This sort of trading control for convenience thing is probably gonna create a lot of anxiety in humanity. It'll take a lot of anxiety away, but it'll also create its own anxieties.
It's so funny because it's like the things that we watched as kids, like Terminator. Remember with like the AI and Skynet and all this stuff. Like it's kind of happening in a way.
It's Skynet. Skynet is happening. The question is what, how are the machines going to react to us? Will they be, once they become quote unquote self-aware, will it be a Skynet situation where they want to just knock us out of the way? Will they be indifferent and just kind of be like, we are such lesser mortals that they don't care? Or will they be our servants? Will they remain our servants? We don't really know the answer to this question until it happens.
Yeah. So you were talking to me before we got started about something that you were working on. I'm curious to hear more about that. And then also I want to go and talk to you about these hilarious YouTube reaction videos where people are watching your films on YouTube and reacting. So what's going on with all this?
I'm working on a few things. I mean, I've got I made a board game horror short that's done pretty well, called Face Your Fears. And I've been using that to kind of pitch this other board game horror opioid story, that I'm currently pitching around, that I'm pretty excited about. We'll see if I can get that off the ground. And then I'm writing a few features. I when we got on the call, you were telling your Alexa to shut off your air conditioner. It reminded me of a home invasion horror. It's kind of like a Black Mirror version of The Strangers, where the people coming in, they're invading a smart home, and they use they steal people's faces who live in, so say the smart home does everything for you, and it like works off of facial recognition. So if you show your face, which is how we do everything now, but what if somebody is able to create like a digital version of your face that is it's a complete replication of it, and these people actually don't have faces, or they have faces, they have like meme or smiley, emoticon faces, but they can steal your face, and then they control your smart home.
Ooh.
What's going to happen? What's going to happen then? You can't get in or out. You can't call the police. You can't do anything. So, and then I'm kind of layering in some like deep fake stuff, because deep fakes really scare the shit out of me, all that technology.
Yeah.
So that's one idea. Another one I'm working on, I'm creating like this horror alternative. Are you familiar with alternate reality games?
Sort of. Yeah. Let's see. Is it, no, go for it, because I'm trying to think of it.
Well, yeah, I'm sure you've seen them. Like, say, it's generally if you're walking around like Silver Lake or Los Feliz or something, and you see some strange like flyer on a telephone pole, which like it makes no sense what the person is actually selling. Like they're selling I don't know, implanted memories or some strange like sauce thing, or it's and but there's a thing where it's like, here, go to the website. So you take one of the things and you go to the website, and then there's this whole like strange narrative that you follow.
Okay.
So next time you see one of those, grab one of the things and go to it. And then, but there's all these codes and they've been done a bunch of times for certain like video game rollouts. Like I think it was Halo had one called I Love Bees, and they basically sent this honey to a bunch of different people, and they tore off the label, and the person had to have the wherewithal to empty out the honey, and they'd find like little letters stuck inside that were inside the honey. And then if they rearranged those letters in a certain way, they got I Love Bees. And then they go to ilovebees.com and you find a website about bees, but it's actually been hacked by this potentially alien life form. So and you got to solve it. And so it starts getting in some really weird things. But I'll tell you, and to circle back a little bit to the beginning of our conversation, I became interested in this stuff because of the whole like QAnon thing.
Oh, right. Like, the rabbit hole thing.
I'm trying to understand, like, it's a little scary when people are, living in seemingly alternate realities. And QAnon kind of resembles, is actually a kind of a form of an alternate reality game with no ending. There's no ending, essentially. So I got really interested in this because this seems to be happening where we're living in different realities. And then I start thinking, well, is there even a reality? What's the reality I live in? Is that the real reality? I mean, everyone thinks they're living in the reality, but is there and then I don't smoke weed anymore, but like your brain starts going to these crazy places.
Sounds like you smoke weed still. No, I'm kidding.
I should calm myself down or something, because the brain starts going, man, and it's scary.
Yeah. That's fucking trippy. I thought you were talking about something completely different. There's this like actual video game where it's like I want to say the thing that you stick on your head. What?
Oh, that's augmented reality.
That's what I thought you meant.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Pokemon.
Well, they go to these like places and they all like people meet each other like, hey, and they're like, one's like dressed as like a cat or something, like this is a cat avatar or whatever. Like, nice avatar. You're a cat today, and they're like, yeah. What are you? I'm I don't know, just a dude. So it's like, I was like, is he going to talk about that? But no, alternate reality. I mean, yeah. I mean that's fucking freaky. So I want to get to another segment here. It's called Creepy American Phrases That Should Be Canceled. Okay, so as you know, a lot of things get canceled nowadays in 2021 here with cancel culture. So we're thinking the next thing that should be canceled are probably these creepy American phrases. I'm going to give you six phrases, and I want you to pick the creepiest one you think.
I'm not a big canceler, but all right, we'll see. Go ahead.
So here are six phrases, and I want you to pick one phrase that you think should be canceled.
Okay.
Number 1, throw the baby out with the bathwater. Number 2, kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Number 3. Number 3. I wrote letters instead of numbers, but now then I'm changing it. I'm changing it right now to numbers. Okay. Number 3, get medieval. Number 4, going postal. Number 5, skeletons in the closet. Number 6, has the cat got your tongue?
Okay. What? All right. What was the one before going postal?
Get medieval.
Get medieval. Okay. All right. I'll say, and when I say cancel, I mean not that it's offensive, but that let's just lose it. We don't really need it anymore.
Sure.
I'll tell you, I was immediately drawn to going postal because my dad and my brother are both postal workers.
Oh my goodness!
So I was like, but I mean, they would laugh about it because it's true. Like what Newman says, like the mail never stops; it just keeps coming.
Sure.
And then it's a tough job, and you understand why some of these. But it's been a while since someone has gone postal, so maybe the post office is.
I feel like it's the people that aren't the ones delivering the mail. I think it's the people like working the kiosk. I think those are the people that snap.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Who are like receiving the mail and they're sorting it.
No. Like the people that like work the windows, like people like mailing shit, and like there's always the long waits.
Who work in the windows? Which windows?
Yeah, like they're taking the transactions. Like I need to ship this to Wichita, Kansas, or something.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Like they're doing all the transactions. They're having to deal with all these disgruntled people waiting in the long lines. They process passports. They have to do all this stuff. I feel like those are the people who interact, with the public the most. I think those are the people that are the most like stressed out.
Yeah. All right. I can see that. Yeah. So I think, I feel like going postal kind of already has been canceled because we haven't seen that much anymore. We're not, it's like the crazy mail person. It's not really as much of a thing as it was in the 90s.
Oh yeah. I think email probably de-escalated that, right? The advent of email.
It's they seem to have dovetailed at the same time as email use increased, postal shootings decreased. So I think now the mail is all like junk mail.
Oh God.
Where like people sending you,
don't get me started,
just catalogs that you can't even get off of them, but they're also keeping the mail going, all this junk mail.
You can get off of them, by the way, but there's a lot of fucking hoops to jump.
I've tried. I've jumped through hoops and I was just like, you know what? I give up. I can't do it. I can't. How many AAA Westways magazines? I don't want to go to the stupid whatever you're selling. I don't want it.
Are you a AAA member though? Because
I am.
Yeah, I mean, that's why they're sending it.
Well, I was like, please, I don't like. If I have an emergency, I'll call you guys. But otherwise, I don't give a shit about Westways.
Yeah, right. No, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. Yeah, it's
right.
I get that magazine too, and you can technically there is some benefit to it. You can use your AAA card at hotels to get deals, but
yeah, I mean, I'm a AAA fan. I like AAA.
Yeah. But you probably will be booking that online, right? I mean, so
yeah. So
yeah.
I'll show my AAA card.
Use.
I'll show it at the at the front desk, and they give you a discount. So I do that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it feels like the other ones kind of still have some use. I mean, throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think that still has use. Kill two birds with one stone still has use. Get medieval that feels what's the word? Anachronistic.
Yeah.
Not about medieval times, but like that was also very 90s. So I don't really hear people saying that anymore.
Right.
It was a thing with like Pulp Fiction. So it doesn't seem like that has any use anymore. So we've already
canceled. Yeah, we've already canceled 2 just by time itself. So that's good.
Yeah, time is the great canceler. Cancels everyone. Everyone gets canceled at some point.
Yeah. So what do you got? What's your now you're narrowed it. You're down to 4 out of 6.
Oh, I have to cancel. I have to leave one that's not going to be canceled.
Well, you got to personally cancel one because you.
So those are all right. So what do I got left? I got throw the baby out with the bathwater, kill 2 birds with one stone.
Skeletons in the closet, and has the cat got your tongue?
Skeletons in the closet. It's a cat got your tongue. Oof. I don't want to cancel throw the baby out with the bathwater because I want to preemptively not cancel that because if there are people who are like, oh, they're part of this violence to babies, I'm like, go fuck yourself. So preemptively, I am not canceling because I think that's a good line.
Okay.
I like skeletons in the closet. I mean, that's, I do horror. It's all about kind of skeletons in your closet.
Sure.
So I'd probably kill that. Or I'd keep that. 2 birds with one stone. I still use it. I mean, I still use it.
Right.
Even though it is a absolute cliche, I still use that one. And then the cat got your tongue. I don't use that anymore. So that just seems kind of that seems kind of lame.
Sure.
Although I'm a cat lover. I don't even know. I mean, actually thinking about it, I don't really. Can you explain that to me? Is the cat puts its paw on your tongue? I mean, what does that even mean?
Oh man, I have no idea. This is American. Right. Some of these American phrases I didn't even look up. I mean, I'm just like, what the hell is this shit?
I mean, I know what it means. I know what it's supposed to mean, but I don't know how it came.
I don't know the origins. I mean, these are, you know what I'm saying? Like, we just love having these sayings. We love phrases. I mean, we're a country of phrases.
Yeah, well, like idioms.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we like phrases that seem to mean so much yet don't mean anything. Like the cat got your tongue. And I'm a big fan of idioms and things. But that one that seems a bit played out and.
Okay.
And since I can't even think of, I mean, I can't even think of what, maybe someone is listening and they're like, well, obviously it means the cat grabbed your tongue or whatever, but I don't, yeah.
Okay. So
I said we cancel that one. That's the one.
That's the one. All right.
Canceled.
Okay. Canceled.
Heard it here
first. It is out of here. Okay. I also want to talk to you about those YouTube reaction videos. I saw you were posting that on social media. That's pretty funny. These are people from they're watching your films, and they're all across the world, right?
Worldwide. Yeah.
So when did you get word of this? Did they start tagging you or something, or how did you?
Well, generally, so YouTube has this duplicate content feature. So if you post something and then somebody duplicates your video, they warn you, and they're like, do you want to, flag this for duplicate content? So that's generally how I find out, because when you're doing a reaction video, they have to duplicate it and they put their face on it.
Right.
So that's usually how I find out. I found the international ones are generally videos that don't have a lot of words in them, a lot of English,
so they're just screaming.
Yeah, well, for I have a short called Peekaboo, and I think Peekaboo is the only word that's said, and that's translated in all. Everyone knows what Peekaboo means. So that one seems to be very popular with these foreign language audiences, and I don't know what language they're speaking, and they're freaking out over it, but it's cool. Yeah. It's cool to see that. It's fun to, I mean, sometimes they watch and they're like, oh, this is stupid, and those ones aren't.
Those aren't very helpful. Those are not helpful.
Well, why even bother? Yeah. Why even bother make this video if you don't even like it?
Yeah, but it's cool though, because horror is a genre where scary shit is scary shit, and if you say something in English and it doesn't translate well, and it's something that's funny here, then you're not going to get a laugh overseas. You know what I mean? But here, I mean, with horror, if it's some gory shit happens, some shit, you know what I mean? And you can get that reaction.
Scary. Yeah. Scary is scary.
Yeah.
Every country, we sometimes we have these different myths and stuff, but they're all kind of the same stuff.
Right.
It's all, everyone's got their own version of something that's something horrible. And,
Yeah. So what's your sign, Neil?
I am a Taurus.
Okay. It is now that time to read our guest horoscope in an overly traumatic way. In a world obsessed with instant gratification, commit to your long-term goals. In a world driven by selfish motives, be of service to those around you. In a world based on fleeting connections, build something solid with the people that you love. This chapter of your life sees you committing to the slow life and a newfound passion. Taurus, and vowing to leave the world in a better shape than when you first saw it. And here's your cosmic tip of the day, Taurus. How can you be of service, you wild bull, you? And that is Neil Patrick Henry Stevens. Henry Callahan McGinnis horoscope.
There we go.
All right, so it's vacation season, so I want to hear about any memorable places you've been to in your life. I just got back from Humboldt. Well, not just got back, but I went up to the Redwoods. It was amazing. It was like it was. I feel like I got there before it all burnt down. You know what I mean? Like it's like I beat the fire to the punch, and climate change to the punch. But is there anywhere you went to in your life where you're like, man, that place was really, really memorable?
In my entire life, not just recently.
Yeah.
This is like some of the coolest places I've ever been.
Yeah.
Ooh. There's so many, of course. There's one that comes to mind. I lived, I don't know if you know this about me, Mervin, but I lived in Argentina for a little while.
Oh, wait a minute. I saw a photo. That's right. That was a while ago. Yeah, like 3 years ago, I saw a photo that you were down in the Patagonia, right?
Well, this was a while. This is probably 7-8 years ago where I lived there. I was living in Buenos Aires, but Argentina is one of the most beautiful countries on earth because it's so long. If you look at it on the map, it's goes to the almost to Antarctica, the tip of it. But if you go north, it's very like desert area.
Yeah.
So the place I was going to say is in Patagonia. I believe it's called El Chalten. And it's just this sort of like mountainy area where it's just like little beautiful looking town that's like you like go through the mountains and you find this sort of like mountain village that's kind of like nestled into this valley. And it was one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. And it was not really super populated. You go on these hikes and you see these beautiful lakes and mountains and there's like nobody there, I mean, there are people there, but it's not a huge, destination around the world, at least.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It was like tough getting there. You got to get on a bus and you're kind of like twisting and winding and
do you fly into like Ushuaia?
I guess you could. There's an airport there. We just took a road trip and we're just taking like buses. We went through the whole country. But I'm sure you could fly. I'm sure you could fly into Ushuaia.
Oh, that is gorgeous.
Which is very, very pretty there. Which is Yeah, I've never been.
My mom is from Argentina, and I used to go down like almost every year.
Oh wow.
Yeah, my mom's from Argentina. Yeah.
Your mom's she's a porteña?
No, she's not from Buenos Aires, but she's from San Juan, which is right by the Andes. Okay. Yeah. I mean, she lived in Buenos Aires for a little bit, but she was born and spent most of her life in San Juan. And I
did not know.
Yeah, that. I saw that picture. I wanted to talk to you about that a long time ago, but I totally forgot. But this is really cool that you said that because I love Argentina. I love the people, the culture, the food. It's a great place. My cousin actually lives in San Juan right now, and he has a vineyard that basically up against the Andes. And they make a lot of, like Shiraz and Malbecs and stuff like that.
Malbec, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, it's really great. Yeah, it's. So you how long did you live there? That's amazing.
Not super long. I lived maybe like 6 months or so.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a beautiful country. They got some conflicts with their with the government. That
they're always protesting, right?
They're always There's a lot of protesting. It made me appreciate like our own government in a way where I was like, oh, okay.
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting because like I was telling one of the guests that when my cousin niece, and when my cousin has a kid, it's a niece, right? Or niece and nephew, right?
Cousin has a kid, niece
or a second.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I get the idea.
Okay. Yeah. So she came here and I showed her around. I took her to all these places and she was shocked to see that there was homeless here. And because in Argentina, like people are poor, but they have houses and things like that. So,
yeah.
So she was telling me that, but the problem there is that, it's a socialism style economic system, and it's good for that, meaning like there's not going to be any homeless people and stuff like that, and everybody has shelter and food and all that stuff. But it's hard to make a ton of money, and if you're just average Joe, like you're not like a doctor or a lawyer or whatever, so it becomes a little challenging. They have a strong unions and strong, working class, but the taxes are a little high and they can't innovate as much because there's actually like too much workers' rights. It's really funny. Like in the US, like there's barely any. I mean, there is, but they're often abused, and you always see these like problems. So it's weird because you see like one extreme here and then another extreme there. And I think it's funny because it's like, it's hard to find that like balance, you know what I mean? Where you want strong worker protection, but you want to innovate and you don't want to drag things down, but you don't want runaway capitalism where there's like $1 billion house right next to, a homeless encampment. Right, you know what I mean? Right. It's like, damn, how do we balance this stuff? I don't know.
It's because it's that nuance, right? It's like that gray area because it's much easier to make a political point when it's black or white or this extreme or that extreme. But probably the most efficient way of doing it is somewhere in the middle. That's like a balance of a good thing. You're never going to perfect it, and every government, every economy has its like downsides to it. But often, somewhere like in between is probably good, but still creates problems. But I mean, you can't put that on a political bumper sticker and be like,
Yeah, it's so complicated. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely something where you'd probably need some sort of bipartisan support to come across, come through. And that's something that just doesn't happen here in the US. Sadly.
but you realize that when you travel the world, though, you realize it's kind of fucked up all over. And I'm not saying that we don't have problems here and there aren't like major things that need to be looked at, but you travel and you're like, this country is kind of fucked up. This country's kind of, this country hates their government. Everyone's kind of like disgruntled with their government, which is how it should be. You should that's, if you have a democracy, like, you kind of have to be disgruntled, because if you're not disgruntled, you get complacent, and then you can be taken advantage of. Of course, if you're disgruntled, you can also be taken advantage of as well and pushed down some dangerous directions. But yeah, man, that's why I make horror movies, man. It's a messed up world, and I have no answers.
Aren't the cultures different though? Like back there, or down there, I should say, is like the sexuality is kind of like a bigger thing here, where it's kind of like women here, like, like don't talk to me kind of thing. It's like over there, it's kind of like everyone's very, in your face about the sexuality. They look you up and down, and they're like, everyone's like hitting on each other for, flirtatious. It's like,
Yeah. And not to make broad generalizations, because I'm about to, but I would say the thing I learned, the Argentine men, is that they can be very sort of aggressive. They're very extremely charming often, and like incredible charming talkers. But they can be so aggressive that as an American, if I'm just playing Mr. Cool, Mr. Laid Back, let them come to me, that doesn't necessarily work over there, when it's like it's expected that you are the pursuer and the girl's constantly kind of like, playing you down and being like, no, you got to try harder. And it's like, but they don't take the guy, the guys can, they can, maybe they get too aggressive sometimes.
Well, I mean,
but
it's not that there's no feminism there. It's that, they'll still, if you yell out of a car, grab your dick and say, hey, sweetheart, you catcall or something, they're going to be like, no, get the fuck away from me.
Yeah.
But they do gravitate to people who are very assertive, and it's a different animal. you could talk to me at the club. You could talk to me at the thing, just come at me with some game or something. I don't know. It's totally different.
You got to do something, you got to take your shot. You got to take your shot over there.
Shoot your shot.
Shoot your shot. Yeah.
You're constantly shooting shots over there. But it's definitely different. But hey, each place has its good and bad. So it's one of those things. Yeah, that's great, man. That's great. I'm going to check that out next time I go down. I haven't been down there since 2000. So I got to see my family. I got, my mom was one of 9. And so I got a lot of family down there. So I got to go see them.
Far out. Oh,
yeah.
That's great, dude. That's great.
So, all right, Neil. So thank you for coming on to the Ramble. I felt like we got a little ramble going.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh yeah. We were, I'm a rambler. So this worked
awesome.
out.
And so where can everybody find your horror films, your social media and all that stuff?
Yeah. If you go on YouTube, and you type Neil Stevens, probably Neil Stevens horror, because there's like a Neil Stevens gay porn star, and there's a Neil Stevens red state blogger. I'm the other one, horror guy. So yeah, Neil Stevens horror. You find my channel, my movies. I'm only on Instagram these days. It's the only one that doesn't cause too much stress and anxiety for social media. You can find me on Neil P. Stevens on there. I post intermittently, I'm not a huge poster, but I occasionally post some stuff on there.
So everyone, please give Neil a follow. Check out his videos; are really, really awesome. And Neil, I will see you when the Chargers take on the Patriots at SoFi Stadium, and hopefully you fuckers don't outnumber us. Yeah, that's all I fucking care.
It's a big stadium. There's a lot of seats to fill, butts to put in seats. Yeah. We'll see. I'll be there. I'll definitely be there.
Okay, great, man. I'm excited about the football season, and let's get some drinks or something sometime.
Sounds good. All
right, cool. That was Neil Patrick Stevens the 17th. No, I'm kidding. That was Neil Stevens. And thank you guys all for listening to the Ramble. All right, Neil, talk to you later.
Talk to you.